in our Rockerbox AMA series. I have Emily Schreiro here today from our product team. In a little bit, she's going to go through some information about Rockerbox Track, and then we're going to open it up for some AMA kind of frequently asked questions and also your questions. So if you have any questions at any point now throughout the conversation, at the end, feel free to throw those in the chat and we'll get to as many as possible. Emily, thanks for joining me today. This is going to be fun.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Maggie.
Yeah. So before we went live here, we were talking about the Olympics and we're both watching. So little icebreaker question for everyone who's joining us. What's your been your favorite Olympic sport to watch? And Emily, I'm interested what yours is.
I'm such a geek about the Olympics. Like anything that's on, I'll become obsessed with and not even like know the name of it.
Okay. Like you'll discover your new favorite sport that you didn't even know was a sport.
Yeah, exactly. Like everyone else, I love the gymnastics because it's just like, it's not natural. It's almost like watching, I don't know, superheroes fly around or something. Like how can you jump 6 feet in the air, do 3 twists, and then land on your feet? So
yeah,
I think that's pretty cool.
It is amazing. I was talking to a friend of mine about, I think we were talking about the running specifically. And she was like, with every person I see, I feel like I'm witnessing like a groundbreaking, like best all time record. And then the next person comes on and it's like, oh no, wait. Like, it's just, I don't understand how they can be that good. Okay. Track and field. Yes. Oh my gosh. I've loved watching, especially like I don't know if it's like the 100-meter or the 200-meter with Sha'Carri Richardson. Like, it's just amazing. They're just incredible.
I always think when the Olympics come around, like there should be a normal person competing in every event, just so we know like what the baseline is. Like everyone who's running in the Olympics is so fast. If you put like, I don't know how fast of a runner you are, but I don't think you've been to the Olympics for track and field. If we put Maggie next to the runners, we need to know like what the normal benchmark is.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm normal or like on the slow side of normal. Like, you know, like an 11-minute mile is good for me. I heard this like crazy statistic the other day that 40% of Americans think that they could be in the Olympics. And I'm not one of that 40%. Let me tell you. I don't have any like illusions of grandeur there.
But then you get the freak athletes who have competed in like more than one event, or like they have done, I don't know, I can't think of an example, but they're definitely athletes who have competed in multiple disciplines. And
right, like they started in one and then they moved to something else. Yeah, it's impressive. So guys, this is actually going to be an Olympics recap show today. You thought you were coming here to learn about data, but no, we are actually Lola Jones going from track to bobsled. Oh yeah, okay,
nice. That's insane.
Yeah, nice. Anyone else? Any other favorite Olympic sports? That's what we're doing right now. In case you just joined, we are just a little icebreaker. What's your favorite Olympic sport to watch? What did we watch the other day? Kayaking last night.
Oh wow.
Just
whitewater or normal kayaking?
I think it was whitewater. They had like this curling. Oh, is that in a winter games, or do they do that? I guess that is like a winter Olympics thing. I don't know, actually. Maybe it's both. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. But so many good ones. All right.
Well, a segue from the Olympics to our track AMA, but
is there one? Well, track and field. I don't know. Something. I should have, like, when I was making these slides, I should have tied that in, made it like Olympics themed, but
your gold medal tracking.
Well, yeah, throw your data puns into the chat as well, if you can think of any Olympics ones. All right, guys, thank you for joining us. We really are going to get into this actual webinar here. We're going to be answering a lot of your questions we've got in the past and any that you have today surrounding first-party data and building a first-party data foundation. I'm mostly going to turn it over to Emily to walk you through this. Emily is product manager here at Rockerbox and works specifically with Rockerbox Track. And if you are a customer of Rockerbox, you might have actually met Emily before. She's been here for a while, definitely a veteran here. And I'm the product marketing manager. I host a lot of these webinars, and I get to benefit from hearing all of this like expert knowledge. So Emily, I'm gonna let you take it away and give us kind of a Rockerbox intro, and then we'll move into the questions.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Maggie. So for those of you who might be a little bit newer to hearing about all things Rockerbox, Rockerbox helps marketers understand how to make data-driven decisions, answering questions like what works with my marketing and what should I do next based on my findings around what works. So answering all of these questions, of course, first requires the right data. Rockerbox provides centralized, clean, and standardized marketing data that's robust, flexible, and granular. And we'll get into this in much more detail during today's session. And then on top of this, we layer on a full suite of marketing measurement solutions to help your team answer these priority questions and answer that, what works and what do I do next? So when we start to think about what a solid data foundation for marketers entails, it fits into three broad categories. First, we're collecting spend and platform performance data from each of your various marketing platforms. Then we're tracking first-party data from all of your commerce and marketing channels. And then lastly, of course, we're providing these data sets back to your analysts or marketers to join against other data sets, build dashboards against, or perform ad hoc analysis on as quickly as easily as possible by getting this very solid, expansive marketer-centric data set back into your data warehouse environment. And actually, I'm going to skip one slide forward and just give you a little bit of a visual on that data collection piece. So those three data product lines, we won't get too much into the detail, but just to give you an idea of kind of all of the mechanisms at play to help build this data foundation. On the track side, we use a variety of different tracking mechanisms to collect conversion data, session data, user identifiers. We're tracking offline conversions, mobile app installations and conversion events, retail transactions, using a variety of different mechanisms like an on-site pixel, webhooks, batch files. And then you can also see we're tracking each individual marketing channel. So both collecting that spend data and tracking first-party touch points against each individual marketing channel. On the spend side, we're then pulling in that spend data via API integrations, batch files, manual spend that might be more ad hoc when your team thinks about your overall spend on your marketing mix. And then basically with all of these data sources, you can think of each of these individual boxes, we're creating these standard, consistently maintained schemas that can then be exported into your data warehouse or exported kind of as a one-off for further analysis. So hopefully this visual is a little bit more helpful for understanding everything that goes in to building that foundational data set. And then hopping back, once we have that data set, it becomes very simple to perform analysis on top of it. And Rockerbox is looking to perform analysis in a few major buckets to solve quite a few marketer pain points. One of those is with our optimized product that starts to answer questions like, how can I create more efficiencies in my marketing mix, both from a cost and a time-saving perspective, and what are my benchmarks, and how can I make sure that I always hit them or improve upon them. Then we have the journey product, which starts to answer questions like, how do my marketing channels interact with each other in driving users to convert? And then we also offer MMM, or marketing mix modeling, which is a bit more forward-looking and helps answer questions like, how can I build a comprehensive marketing plan to most effectively meet my business objectives within a given budget, and knowing that there are all of these other factors at play that are somewhat out of my control. So today we'll be focusing mostly on this track product line, looking at building that first party data foundation. And I think, Maggie, you had a few questions from the audience to get us started.
Yeah, and actually, I just thought of a question before kind of leading into this. Just looking at that diagram, I wonder how, if that's like a really new way of looking at data for a lot of companies. Like if when they come to Rockerbox, they've just never thought about all of the different data buckets and the process of centralizing all of that data. And I guess, yeah, it's a really, we see this a lot. We look at this slide a lot, but and feel free to chime in from the audience if this is kind of a new way of thinking about this for you or not. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the kind of data structures that customers are coming from when they come to Rockerbox, and yeah, what that transition is.
Yeah, it's a great question. Many of the marketers who first start to look for a solution like Rockerbox are coming from a world where, say, on this track first party data side, they might use a tool like Google Analytics to track conversion events and click-based attribution. So they have some sense of what's driving users to site, what's driving eventual conversions, but it's somewhat limited in that this whole world of offline conversions and, in many cases, MMPs are kind of in a black box. And something that makes Rockerbox unique that we'll go into is we also have these partnerships with dozens and dozens, probably actually in the hundreds at this point, of marketing vendors to receive like more data beyond the click. So I think when a lot of marketers start to look at Rockerbox as a solution, they're finding that that click-based measurement from Google Analytics or other similar tools, maybe like a survey, isn't really telling the full story. I think also the process of getting spend data or performance data from each individual marketing platform, maybe you've historically spent on Google and Facebook or Meta, and maybe you're sending out emails as well. It's not so bad to pull a monthly or weekly report to get spend from that source. But when you start to think about, I need to do month over month, week over week, day over day analysis, maybe I have 5 or 10 or 20 different marketing partners, it becomes more critical to have this data updated and integrated and maintained. And that becomes a big task for just a marketing organization to do on their own without a partner like Rockerbox.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just interested in kind of establishing some of that, like basic information there. Okay, so moving into our actual questions, we talk a lot at Rockerbox about Track and how it kind of enables some of our other products like Journey, but it's also useful by itself. So I'd love if you could just talk about Rockerbox Track and how it helps establish a first-party data foundation.
Yeah. So Rockerbox Track, as we have kind of been pointing toward, is a comprehensive toolkit used to build a robust and granular first-party foundational data set aimed at serving marketers. So at its core, the Track product line uses first deterministic tracking mechanisms to track every interaction a user has with your brand. So this might be interactions with your owned commerce channels, maybe on your website, your mobile app, maybe you have offline touch points. So when we think about a user visiting your site, downloading your app, making a purchase in a brick and mortar store, these are all types of like commerce actions that your prospects or your customers are engaging with that are tracked in this first party context with the Rockerbox Track product. And then we're also able to track interactions with your marketing channels. These might be digital or offline marketing channels. maybe you're interested in tracking views in addition to clicks. Maybe you have other types of measurement at play, like a post-purchase survey asking, how did you hear about us question. So, when a user receives a piece of direct mail, or they click on an ad, or they see a display banner, we're also tracking each of these discrete touch points. And as I kind of alluded to, much of this is facilitated through partner integrations with marketing vendors, where common identifiers are used to attribute conversions to exposed users. On top of that deterministic first-party data set, some Rockerbox customers also use Rockerbox's probabilistic methodologies to understand the impact of marketing that can't be tracked deterministically, such as views on walled garden platforms, linear TV, OTT. So then with these deterministic and probabilistic tracking methodologies, each of these individual interactions, again, with those owned commerce channels and marketing touch points, are tracked with a granularity such that they can be stitched or joined together to, of course, other Rockerbox data sets, but also to other data sets that are important for your business, like maybe your customer data. And that kind of unlocks more meaningful analysis about your users and their behavior. So that all kind of building toward that strong first party foundational data set that can, again, be joined to themselves or to other data sets for further analysis.
Gotcha. And as you were talking, I thought that's probably especially helpful for brands that are leveraging a lot of marketing channels. So I'm curious, as we're answering the next question, I'll add a poll down there just to see kind of how many channels people are leveraging these days. Okay, so next question. So going off of kind of what you just said, we build that first party data foundation. So let's go into the why. So why is that necessary, and what's the alternative without it?
Yeah. So of course, Rockerbox's Track product is necessary for marketers who need access to that first party data. I think we've said that a couple of times now. And the real question is, like, why do marketers need access to first party data? I would say this becomes critical for a couple of different reasons. One is for understanding a full user's path to conversion across multiple events. So maybe they start with a session, then they're going throughout your funnel toward multiple conversion events. Maybe those are online or offline, and you start to ask questions like, what's my conversion rate across the funnel, or where are users falling out of the funnel? It's also important for understanding the interaction of each marketing channels as you consider that users are exposed to multiple channels. So when we think about, are any of my marketing channels redundant with other channels? So they're reaching the same users, but not providing incremental value in terms of driving that conversion. Are my marketing channels playing the role that I expect them to? So is, OTT truly reaching new users for the first time, or is it playing more of that retargeting role, which maybe isn't my intention for the channel? And then also looking at, like, what's my true ROAS or CPA per channel, knowing that users are being exposed to multiple and still, driving one conversion at the end of the day. Some organizations will look to build their own first-party data set, again, using tools like Google Analytics for click and event attribution. Maybe they'll incorporate survey data in there as well. But I think, kind of, Maggie, as you mentioned, Rockerbox becomes a leading choice when you do have a more complicated marketing mix, and maybe you are running multiple channels and starting to test into offline, and you need visibility into views. And I think one of the tipping points for a lot of marketers is when they start to test into those view-based channels. So maybe starting to test into TikTok, And based on the ROAS that they see in Google Analytics, it doesn't look like that channel is really doing anything in terms of driving conversions, but you see in the TikTok platform and in your like bottom line reporting that there actually has been a bump in business, and you can't really explain why using just your existing toolkit. I think kind of to that, without a foundational first party data set, your data will be kind of three things. It will be siloed, so you can't place one data set within the context of another. It will be aggregate, so it becomes harder to break down behavior at the user level and understand how user behavior for someone exposed to one type of ad may differ from another. And it also becomes duplicative. So multiple factors, whether from your marketing or your commerce, are driving the same outcome. And it's hard to separate which one of those was more impactful in driving conversions, and really to understand like what do I continue to invest in, knowing that, you know, each of the channels in platform reporting take credit for driving the same conversion.
Gotcha. And to circle back to our poll here, we have 3 people who've weighed in. So feel free if you want to weigh in here. We just had 7 to 9 marketing channels take the lead just by 1 there. So right, kind of in the middle, kind of clustered in the middle.
Nice.
Okay, so moving on. Oh, we got another one. 7 to 9 is continuing to take the lead. So what is the difference between first and third party data? I know people hear these terms get thrown around a lot, zero party data as well. So what we're talking about, first party and third party. So what's the difference there? Why does it matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. First party data is collected directly from a company's own customers or users, versus third party data is collected and aggregated from an external organization. And that's kind of the origins of why we call this first party and third party. In many cases, this makes first party data more relevant, as it exclusively pertains to your users and your customers, versus being an aggregate of like industry trends or other data that may not, you know, where customers may not behave like yours. The first party data also will be more granular and personalized because it's collected on that user level with relevant user attributes. So when you look toward either a granular user level analysis or look toward specific personalization and targeting, maybe with your commerce channels, first party data becomes very important to have this visibility and user cohorting. I would also say that first party data is more transparent, because marketers know how, when, and where the data is collected. I think something that a lot of those on the webinar today can relate to is like uh, Meta will change their methodology, and you don't really know why or like what changed, and it becomes hard to kind of benchmark current performance against previous performance, and that is kind of out of your control. First party data then becomes more transparent because you do have this down to the user level, you know, how it's collected, and kind of have a little bit more visibility into all of the weeds of how everything is coming together. And I think this becomes relevant to marketers as they answer more and more questions about their customers. So some common examples of actually like use case questions that we hear a lot of Rockerbox customers start to lean into once they have access to this data is something like, do users exposed to ads showcasing my new product end up purchasing my new product, or are they purchasing kind of my core workhorse product? They also start to answer questions like, are my ads reaching new customers versus repeat? Or How do users interact with multiple marketing channels across their purchase decision? When you kind of lean into those 7 to 9 marketing channels that all aim to drive a user down the funnel. And then, of course, first party data also becomes the foundation for attribution, whether that's first touch, last touch, multi touch. You have to have this granular user level data to establish which marketing touch points exist on a user's path to conversion, and then distribute credit according to whatever kind of attribution methodology your team decides to leverage.
Awesome. I think we just have one more question. And I think we've actually talked about this a little bit. So maybe we can do more of like a summary of what we talked about. Like we mentioned, Rockerbox Track can be used by itself or with other products, or like to enable other products to work. So yeah, could you go into that?
Yeah. I'll hop right into it. As a standalone, the Rockerbox Track product, of course, provides that foundational data set of all of your brand interactions across those owned properties and advertising channels. As we mentioned, we're doing all of the tracking, collecting, standardizing, exporting of this data so it can be immediately consumed for analysis. Some marketers prefer to just have this foundational data set basically like prepared and packaged for them, so that they can apply their own analysis on top of this. So if you're looking for something like custom attribution models and logic, or you're looking to report out on custom KPIs like an LTV, or maybe you're feeding this data into optimization engines and bidding algorithms, you really just need to make sure that you have this clean and consistent and up-to-date data set that you can then perform all of that analysis or manipulation or activation on top of. Um, some Rockerbox customers choose to pair this track data set with other Rockerbox products to um, either enhance the data set, get it from point A to point B, or perform some additional analysis on top of this. So some common pairings are, of course, track and export. So once we have all of this data collected, many marketers will want to have full visibility into this user level data in their data warehouse so they can perform those additional manipulations or perform analysis on top of that. So maybe you want those tables to be shared and maintained so that you can do all of that, more custom analysis in your own environment. So that's kind of the track and export pairing. Of course, many marketers need to have spend data updated against each of their individual ad platforms so they can calculate ROAS or CPA, also to see spend trends week over week, month over month, year over year. And that's where our collect product line comes into play, establishing those API and batch integrations to get all of the spend data into one place. And then, maybe using the export product, we can push that back to your warehouse. Two others that I'll touch on. Many of our customers who are leveraging Rockerbox's multi-touch attribution will use the journey product to understand kind of that path to conversion and how multiple marketing channels play together to drive a user to convert. So that journey product will stitch together each of those tracked commerce and marketing touch points to build that full user journey. And then, of course, there's the optimized product, which can be used to make more of those day-to-day optimizations within your marketing channels using, for example, platform benchmarks or deduplicated performance reporting with different attribution models layered on top. So I would say there's really no kind of one size fits all package. It kind of depends on what your marketing mix looks like, what your existing stack looks like, and kind of what questions you're looking to answer next as you continue to improve and optimize and build out your overall marketing program.
Awesome. That was a great overview. So that's all of the questions that we prepared. And we have the full hour. So we do have plenty of time if you have any other questions about Rockerbox or Track or anything. Just to start us off, so this is not specifically about Track, but with going back to the Olympics, with all this coverage on Peacock, I know that a lot of brands are maybe trying out CTV or interested in that or thinking about the possibilities there. Can you talk about what our approach is to tracking CTV ads?
Yeah. We'll establish direct partnerships with each individual like OTT or CTV vendor to, in most cases, probabilistically model the I guess each of the marketing touch points driven by those channels. So we'll perform an IP matchback to insert those marketing touch points on a user's path to conversion, either through an impression pixel where the IP address is collected, or actually more commonly these days, just given like cross-device interactions. And I mean, we've heard the news from Google about less concerns with cookie deprecation, but still good to keep in mind. More commonly, we'll get log files with an IP address from each individual vendor to do that user level attribution.
Awesome. All right. Not seeing any questions from our audience. And you really covered a lot of ground here, so I can understand if there aren't many follow-up questions. So yeah, I think we can call it here. This was great. Emily, thank you so much, as always. Always a great host. You just shared so much great information. So I hope everyone got a lot out of this. And we have these roughly every month, a different topic each time. So keep an eye out for the next one at some point. And yeah, Emily, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you, Maggie, and thanks everyone for joining.
All right. Bye.